Welcome to Synchronicity. My guests this week are Sean and Cass, Sean Dunn and Cass Greener from the Very Ape podcast. My dear friends, this is their infinite appearance. They've been on the show. They're pretty much always on the show, right? Aren't they? If we're really thinking about it. We get into the weeds in this one. We talk politics. We talk, trying to be able to, not trying, but riding fear frequencies, death, change, mortality. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say clashing of opinions, but it was very Aries season shit, right? Very like ramming different kind of perspectives onto each other. And what's cool is like we always get along. So no matter how varying or divergent our perspectives may seem, we always kind of settle back into this nice, like, yeah, I see your point type shit, which is cool. I'm going to keep this intro super short this week. I have episodes with Ramin and Jessa coming up. I'm going to be recording in the next week. Stay tuned for those. New shit is launching 420. If you want basically what Patreon is now, there's going to be a thing going out. You're going to hear more about it. Whole new launch with a lot of shit coming out on 420. So stay tuned for that. Also, big thank you to the people who reached out to send weed and all that stuff who didn't send it. What are you guys, fucking stoners? Guys, come on. I know it's a pandemic. That's not no excuse to not send me drugs. The mail's still running. Anyway, so to that, actually, I went to the dispensary in Massachusetts because they're like, that's the place you actually have to go. Supply chain's all fucked up outside of the city and other places. It's not so bad, I gotta say. I'm not gonna give them a name brand shout out because it's still too expensive. But anyway, send me stuff, guys. Come on, hit me up. What are you doing? Noah at Sync Podcast. Let's work this out. Outside of that, shit's good. I don't think I really have anything else to say. Subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Go subscribe, rate, and review the Very Ape podcast. They have their music show, Church of Chill. We're going to be doing a lot of shit together as soon as we're allowed to congregate in person. Had my first encounter today out in the world with friends. I didn't know we're back in town, and like we were social distancing in this town in Rhinebeck, and like we realized at least it was kind of more for show. Like we all knew we were healthy and weren't really gonna have to worry about it, but we didn't want to like freak other people out. So we did this dance. You can do these quarantine parties, right? It's gonna be fun. Anyway, if you're still freaking out, because I recognize this is a week and the next week and the next week will probably be fear frequencies being blasted out to you. Just try to relax. You're good. There's probably lots of viruses. When I say probably, there are that you get all the time and you kind of like, oh, this is just a little cold. That's a virus. And that virus is probably killing people. Is it as deadly as corona? Who the fuck knows? It's not important. That's not don't get too caught up in the quote unquote facts of the world. Know that you're good. If you're listening to this, the chances of you getting taken out by the Rona are super fucking low. Just understand that intuitively. Don't be reckless. Don't go licking poles and fucking, touching everything and rubbing it on yourself and other people like a crazy person. But you're good. For real. If you need to hear that, that's fine. There's lots of things. I've been jumping on a lot of these live streams. The patrons know about it. Trying to just keep everyone like, it's good. And I will listen. There was a situation the other night where someone called me and they were freaked out about the way they were feeling. And, I just tried to walk them off the ledge and just be like, you're good. Like, you're one of the healthiest people I've ever met. Like, you don't have to worry about it. And then the next day they're like, oh yeah, I was just totally gassing myself up. I was freaking myself out. So if you're freaking yourself out, don't judge yourself. No big deal. Just maybe pick something else to freak out about, like something awesome and cool, how you're God and everything bends to your will. If you actually understand how this works and you're a being who should use it lovingly because it makes the world a better place and is a fun place. Okay. Anyway, I think we're pretty good for this. Do I need to do anything else? I don't think so. Mailing list, all that shit. It's going to be apparent where you want to go and what you want to do. Website's cool. You see the cool GIFs. People like those. I don't mention that enough. syncpodcast.com. There's a website for this fucking show. It's cool. There's GIFs and shit. Instagram stuff's going on. Readings are going on. You know what to do. It's all super easy. I think we'll do some astrology stuff and some tarot stuff. This next episode I'm going to record is going to be fucking amazing. I have so much shit written down. Just buckle up. I think that'll get that out. Maybe over the weekend, maybe next Thursday. Who knows? Depends how I'm feeling. Sign up for the Patreon if you want extra shit. You like how I did that? Fun times. I don't think I should make a fart sound after I big up the Patreon. It's not good marketing. Anyway, without further ado, go check out their show, Very Ape Podcast. Oh my God, Church of Chill. So great. My dear friends, love them to death. Sean Dunn and Cass Greener. Here you go.
Yo, dude. Yeah, he got it 2 days after we were all together.
Oh, so we had it.
No, he got it from someone.
I said, he wrote to me, he's like, I just got out of the hospital. I was in there for 2 weeks. And I have pneumonia and corona, and they're making me quarantine at home. And I was like, holy shit. And then immediately looked back at my text, and I was like, okay, we hung out with him March 4th, all three of us.
We definitely have it.
No,
Yeah,
we
but
got
he,
it.
I said, when did you get it? Without even bringing it up. And
He
was
doesn't
like,
know, though.
He
Yeah,
doesn't
does.
know.
Well, he kind of knows. He said he's.
There
Well,
was an outbreak at this show that he went to. He was trying to get us to go to this show with him. And he said the guitarist friend had it, and everyone there ended up with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, and like young people are getting hospitalized, and then whatever. Anyway,
I mean, it's a thing. No, my mom just had her friend's brother-in-law just died last night from it. He was 72, healthy dude.
From
whoa,
Corona?
Yeah.
Whoa, damn.
whoa.
I mean, the thing is though, like, it's hard to gauge the level of severity relative to other things yet. Like, I know it's not something to be taken lightly, but I do feel like there's a direct relationship between people like knowing what the effects are and then being like, oh my God, I have it. I feel really sick, and just like buying into it. Cause like even I don't want to be like too cavalier about it, but I do know that like my relationship to like getting sick and being like ill since like last July, like there've been several times where like I felt like what to me would have been the classic symptoms of me getting sick, and I was just like, no. I literally was just like, no. And then I didn't get sick. Like that happened so many times when Eli, everyone's throwing up. There's all this shit around, and like I didn't get any of it. So that's why I kind of like try to temper some of the like real life facts and like crazy shit that's going on with like also just like, okay, you know, if you can kind of like maintain the frequency that like, you know, you're not getting hospitalized and taken out for real. You have to know that. You can't like kind of guess. You at least can like operate at a place where you're not like buying into everyone's worst case scenario. I mean, because the truth is he got out, right? He's out of the hospital. He just had a wild ride, man. He got stuck in a ditch more than 20 minutes, you know? Like, oof.
Well, I think there's so many examples of the opposite of what you're saying. You know, people like almost inviting these illnesses into their world and like throwing their hands up. And, I got it. This is it. Oh my God, I'm feeling symptoms. And like, I don't know what to attribute that to in society, that there's so many hypochondriacs and people that like, maybe that's like a form of attention seeking. Like, I want to be a part of this thing, and therefore I think I think I have this, and therefore you end up with it in some way.
Yeah, it is definitely like a collective insecurity, though, I think, with like their own mortality. I think that's what I've noticed. I think if you can embrace the idea of just like, you're going to die, you know, for sure, like everyone else, and really just kind of going in that place in yourself, and then even embracing death on like a minute to minute basis, just being like, the person who I was a minute ago is dead. It doesn't I used to be a real bad hypochondriac, like to the point where like if I got a little pain in my ankle, I'm looking up like cancer, you know what I mean? Like for real, like really bad. And I just noticed that I think people, if they really ask themselves deeply inside, like, is it my time to go? Like, did I do what I'm supposed to do here? If they can just get in touch with that question, they don't have to really worry about it. And yes, shit can get gnarly. You can get diagnosed with this. You can go to the hospital. You can know people around you who die, but you kind of know this is not your time. You can trust that more than you can trust the death ticker and the mortality fucking thing on the... Oh, I mean, I've been watching a shitload of Fox News. Like, that is my shit right now.
What's going on?
I love it. Dude, first of all, here's what's going on. First thing is, it's not nearly as biased as we thought it was. It's fucking crazy, actually. Like, I saw people grill the president. Like, it's weird how nonpartisan it is. I don't know if it's always been like this. I just started watching like 2-3 weeks ago. And B is like, it's just they're really good at fear mongering, and that's what I want right now. Like, if I want to go into it, I just want to get the fucking movie of like the apocalypse happening. So it's just like, it's entertaining, and they kind of know what like I guess older people want, which is to be really freaked out right now because like they're vulnerable. But I don't know, man. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, we haven't consumed a lot of state propaganda.
I like it.
You know, of all times to do it, this would be a funny time to check in with it.
It's
but like,
the best.
Yeah, that might burst my bubble in like a really nasty way. Like, I mean, the news is trickling in, whether we fucking like it or not, I
Oh,
guess.
I recommend it. If
Yeah.
anything, I do. It's like a nitrous balloon of ridiculousness because it's such a carnival sideshow. It's like a Tim and Eric thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's the approach. If you can look at it through that lens, and yes, I recognize this is real life and blah, 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 there's all this stuff before. But dude, if you look at it like that, it's good. It's objectively good, and it can be subjectively good. And the truth is like, it's not making anything worse right now. You know what I mean? People are doing the same shit they're going to be doing. They're kind of stuck where they are. They're not really allowed to run the same pattern. So, yeah, I'm just relishing the opportunity. I can't imagine I'll watch this as soon as it, like, the curve tamps down, like, done with it. But right now it's kind of entertaining, I got to say.
Wow.
I was telling Sean, I'm like, I'm having these visions of like my last breath while being on like a respirator. And Sean's like, why would you visualize that? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I have to come to peace. Like, it's an active meditation of like letting go and accepting, all right, the worst case scenario, like going into my fear and being like, okay, this is the worst case scenario. I'm alone in a hospital in a lot of pain and I feel like I'm drowning. And I try to have this horrible vision. I don't try to, it just keeps coming up, and it's probably a bad thing to do.
No, it's not.
But I just like meditate through it, and just I even start having a little list of things that I'm gonna throw in my bag so that like if I have to go to the hospital that
Oh my God, you're in it. You know what you're probably doing? Knowing you're probably just processing this. You guys do have to keep something in mind. You're literally like geographically kind of at the epicenter of where this is going on. And a lot of people around you, what you're feeling right now, Cass, they actually will go through. You won't. You're not going to have to worry. I guarantee, if there's one thing I fucking know for sure is neither of you or none of these people who you know are getting put in a hospital for real or going through it. And I know you can be like, you don't know that, whatever. Let's see what happens. But people around you definitely will have this happen. People will die, right? I mean, it's going to be a thing. There are going to people have to gather their bags and shit and do all that. But your ability to kind of like go there and process that actually does, in my experience, help alleviate and kind of take away some of their suffering, because you're at least kind of treading this path for them that's already existing in consciousness where they can follow it. You know, you've at least done the work. And what's cool is you don't actually have to go through this shit. You rest assured too, like, and also like with the visualization stuff, it's not how it works. It's not like you imagine something you have to be totally freaked out that it's definitely going to happen. In fact, the amount you're probably imagining it is serving as a repellent in a weird way. It's like the people who like really want something so bad and they're fucking so pressed for it, they're never going to get it. That's kind of the energy you're probably bringing to this. But yeah, I get it. I mean, I think it's really worthwhile to like go there and process that stuff and really like envision those scenarios to feel it. But then at a certain point, you know, you can drop it.
It's an old operating system for sure.
Yeah.
Like some of the way through this, I realized I was like, wow, I feel like I'm sometimes dealing with like a version of Cass from like 5 or 6 years ago that was a lot more indulgent with the fear. And then like so I'm like, what's going on? What's going on?
Poor
But I think
Cass.
it's just like, I think it's just coming up to the surface, like things you think you may have eradicated, like when push comes to shove, it's like, oh, all those processes are still happening, and it's cool.
It's fear. I mean, the
Yeah.
thing is about fear, like when you really kind of like get its message, which it's really more of an opportunity than something to like fuck your shit up. These situations like this are really powerful. They're like they're like turbo boosts. You know, in Mario Kart, it's like getting a fucking mushroom. You know?
Yeah, man.
You go real fast, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of analogies there, but yeah, I just think it's if fear, like this is what I've been recommending for people because I know a lot of people are freaked out. If it pops up, just like use it as the tremendous opportunity that it is, because you guys, like, you don't sit in fear all that often. No. This is kind of like you calibrate from this end of the spectrum the same way you do from like the bliss ones. Yeah. Also, I mean, I will say this, as delusional as it may sound to some people, if you can really just know that you're good, like your incarnation in this life is not destined to end up a corona victim, like not even in like a martyr way. Like it's not gonna, like you're meant to do other shit. You can just free up a whole lot of space about worrying like about that stuff. So I mean, I think that's worthwhile, and that's worth experimenting with at the very least, because if that happens, that switch, that pivot from like super fear based to just like, oh, this is weird. This is kind of crazy. And still acknowledging that this shit exists. Like, we're not denying the reality that there's a global pandemic,
Right.
but not letting it consume the parts of you that like keep you trapped. I also think like no matter what, this shit is just going to end for people. Like, it's going to end. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to go away. And so use it for what it's worth while we're in it.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a great opportunity to realize our power again as people. Like, you see how quickly we can shut down the economy and make things that seemed impossible possible, and, you know, start having conversations that like people like Bernie have been trying to bring to the forefront for so long. Like, they're just right there and they're so obvious, and these old systems are proving themselves to be what they are, which is like capitalism's a death cult. And today is the day it kind of turned the corner to where they're just really being masks off about it. And they're like, fuck it, I would rather die of corona than see our way of our economic system crumble. Like, a lot of people are saying that. That's basically what Trump is saying. Basically, Trump is coming out and saying, we've crunched the numbers and it's worth the amount of people that would have to die to keep this thing going. And that's servicing his ego. That's servicing all the egos of these fucking small-minded, gross, greedy men that can't handle being with their families, that can't handle the love vibe, that can't handle reconnecting. They need to feel separate, and they need capitalism, and they're willing to fucking kill people en masse to keep that system going. So, like, to bear witness to that, like, should be a beautiful moment for the people, the workers, to realize, like, fuck them. This has been a death cult all along that's predicated on the people that aren't as productive dying off. And now it's just happening. Like, we took the acid. This is the fucking come up. We're getting into a new reality. And there's people desperately holding on to the time before we took the acid. And there's going to be a fucking pretty nasty fight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, here's what's happened for me though. I took the acid and I came out loving Trump. Like, I legitimately like, it's the weirdest thing, and I don't approve of everything he does, but I started to see this weird perspective. Like, here's what I haven't been willing to do yet with this pandemic, and we'll see how it plays out. I can't blame myself for anything Trump has done in terms of like letting this spread. I see the arguments that are put out. Like, I really look at them, and I think he really is, more often than people realize, in these like can't win situations. He closes the borders to Europe. People call him xenophobic. They say now, well, you didn't act fast. It's like this weird, these cracks in all of the foundations of both partisan sides. Or I think this is really what this is more than anything, is a recalibration.
Yeah.
So I don't take my affinity for Trump now as like, I'm a Trump guy forever. I've actually been enjoying, I've watched a shitload of his press conferences.
And you're eating his shit, Noah. I'm sorry. You're literally eating his shit.
I'm eating his shit up.
And you are literally seeing what he's saying and caring about his ego and his feelings and exactly how he wants people to be, which is where they get to this place where they think that, you know, exactly the things that you're saying right now, that he didn't have any choice, that he didn't know, that poor Trump, it's so hard for Trump.
It's not poor him. What I will say is, I do recognize that whoever is president, whether I've liked them or not, and I haven't really liked any president since I've been alive, they do have to deal with more factors than are readily available for most of us. Yeah. And I've just tended to reserve judgment most of the time when dealing with issues like this, because you can see on a day-to-day basis the complexity of this just shifts dramatically. And especially if people think Trump is an idiot, which I really don't at this point, there's only so much you can shit on an idiot before you're the asshole. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
And I recognize that he is definitely, like, he's not blameless. He's not faultless. It is, you can see just in these interviews, like, his first reaction is about his worldview and his ego. And I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's so much worse than what the majority of people are doing on a daily basis. Granted, it's a larger scale because he's president, but I don't know. I don't necessarily see it as eating his shit. I just see it as a perspective I haven't come in contact with because I've been so resistant to all of like the policies decisions, which are still like abhorrent. Like, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of draconian things that I don't agree with, but I'm I'm definitely the asshole who has to defend Trump.
Well,
these
I mean,
days to my friends.
you're definitely from a similar school of thought as him. You know what I mean? He wants to imagine and say the words, the economy is going to go back to normal. The economy is going to be better than ever. You just wait and see. Everything's going to be good. He lives kind of with a similar imaginal technique of moving things forward in a positive direction. But that is to serve him, not the collective. And I think we need a president who puts the people first. I think we need to elect people who put the people first. I think we're looking at a group of villains right now who are crunching the numbers, like Sean's saying, and saying, like, yeah, we'd rather just let people die.
8 million people could die to save this economy. That'd be fine, as long as it doesn't happen on dear leaders' watch.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I think the thing is too is like that's where like the numbers of deaths and like these statistics, like I'm very curious to see what the global death toll is when this is all said and done. And that's not to mitigate any, severity. Like each one of those people is a person, like with families. Like so it's not to minimize that. But we know this. How many people are killed in, genocidal violence every day? How many people die of starvation? How many people die from car accidents? Even Trump's silly analogy there does hold up. Like people do die from car accidents.
This is
car accidents aren't contagious. You don't have a car accident and then 4 days later pass it to your fucking dad.
It's not about the contagiousness of the car accident. It's the principle of we know these things kill X amount of people per day. We don't say to people 100% stop driving. This isn't to draw a direct line towards that, there's actions you can take to prevent car deaths. No, that's why we have seatbelts.
These are GOP talking points that are thought up by the reptilians of this planet.
I think you should stop watching
fucking
Fox.
grossest caves, and it's all about money. And then they get people like you saying it, and you're a smart guy.
You're on the sauce, man.
Yeah.
You're on the sauce.
You have to think about it though, realistically. Like here's
realistically, Noah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but realistically, we don't know how many people are going to die, and if less people die, it's because we self-isolated. And right now, we're looking at 60-plus-year-olds having to be taken off ventilators because younger people are requiring ventilators. Our friends, like I just mentioned at the beginning of this call, had to be hospitalized. He's a healthy young guy. I mean, nurses.
We know 2 people with coronavirus.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's
both young, both under 40.
Here's the thing, though. At what point do we stop? Like, here's what I really believe. I don't know if I shared it with you guys. It is a Neville Goddard thing, and there is a Trump Goddard connection. Just to make it even more.
Oh yeah, we know about it. We never wanted to put that in your face before, but someone told
us. Oh, of course
there
is. It's a very direct one. I mean, his pastor or preacher of his church went to the lectures and took a lot of that stuff and imbued it into this kind of. And let's be clear, kind of what we're homing in on here. It's this kind of GOP Republican, pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of mentality that fuses with this imagination creates reality, which can lead to this kind of callousness that is every man for himself, which really is at the end of the day true, but if not kind of integrated into this dualistic dance that we're doing with each other, can get pretty reckless and hedonistic. So I definitely want to address this. My only point when saying that my approach and kind of willingness to buy into or listen to talking points that maybe before I would have been like is just like a reptilian agenda has less to do with the actual substance of those things. I think all facts are malleable, truly. I mean, I know that's a very hard thing for people to accept, but I think what facts are is things we believe in, truthfully.
Yeah.
I really do. And I know there's statistics and all these other things, but if you know your statistics, statistics are fucking the most malleable thing based on sample size and a variety of other factors. But anyway, the point is with all of this stuff is if it makes you operate in a place where you're more effective in terms of your own mental, emotional, spiritual, and psychological health, which allows you to be there for people around you, which allows them to feel better and kind of grok that they have that option and ability too. I don't necessarily condemn or judge anyone else's viewpoint, even if it looks abhorrent, even if it looks like absolutely the worst genocidal thing. Like I've had to reconcile some very difficult, kind of mental exercises or philosophical exercises where looking at people like Hitler and being like, holy shit, what a soul. Like, what a soul to choose to incarnate in an earthly plane and be the worst villain for hundreds of years because of his fucking sadisticness. Like, if we're looking at souls incarnating, that's a choice.
Yeah.
And he had to fit in and play that role in the world. So if you look at people kind of playing roles rather than being shitty people or villains, it also shifts the priority and kind of responsibility from your end, which is if you look at someone like a villain and you're a smart, high vibe type of person, you may be actually condemning them to be a villain. So if you can look at Trump as maybe not like a worse piece of shit reptilian overlord, but just as kind of like a confused little kid, it changes the way you can listen to what he's saying. You don't have to buy it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
But you can at least get a crack in the door and be like, oh shit, this is this crazy fucking role this weirdo has chosen to do. Like, let's see if we can get him out of this somehow. Let's see if we can imagine him like waking up just a little bit, just a tiny crack.
I'm more interested right now in waking up my like fellow Americans. You know what I mean? That when he says like when everything's positioned as if the Democrats are stopping some bill that's getting them to have a check, that we can stay like, hey, let's look at what's actually going on. Let's look at the corporate welfare that we're doing. Let's look at the bailouts and who they'd be going to, and let's realize that this isn't to help the people and that we should be helping the people right now. And that what happened now is that we're seeing what the world looks like without a month of labor.
Yeah.
Labor, you know, that's what creates wealth. It's labor that creates wealth, and it's labor and people who do that labor who should be rewarded. And so I think it's a paradigm shift if we can just wake up to what's going on and what this is showing us. It's not Trump and his fucking cronies that deserve the money, and that it's going to be trickle-down economics is just fucking pissing on people, and I'm over it.
It's created, and Fox News definitely perpetuates.
But what do we think about the idea that Bernie wanted to send like $2,000 a month throughout the pandemic to every American, right?
I guess it's a start.
No, and I agree, but like what's actually happening in terms of the checks everyone's going to be getting is pretty close to that in terms of now.
Yeah, Trump's left of most Democrats right now, and
like
it's pretty embarrassing for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's weird. That's what I mean. It's all topsy-turvy. That's why I'm saying like I don't want to seem like I've just been like a right-wing propagandist. I genuinely think if you guys took whatever drugs needed to be taken and watched Fox News for like an hour, you'd be like, holy shit, this is different than what we thought it was.
Oh, yeah.
Not because you're believing anything they're saying, but as someone who literally never watched it, I was sure it was just all Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson's just like shitting on the... It's not. It's not. They actually
but even Tucker Carlson like does some of the best interviews, and he'll bring on actual progressive voices that MSNBC would
to yell
touch.
at them. To yell at them,
kind of. But he gives them space. Like he doesn't even do the thing that like Tucker Carlson of like 10, 15 years ago would do. I mean, like, so yeah. I mean, I guess there's things to be respected there or whatever. I think it's like. It's kind of fun and funny right now in week 2 of this to be like, whoa, we're watching the news. Like, all this is going to be flushed down the fucking toilet. Like, everything is about to fucking change.
Yes.
The whole approach. And, the thing I've always tried to wake people up to on our podcast is like, the left-right paradigm is the wrong one. That's what they want you thinking about. This is the top-bottom one. This is a class war. And we're seeing it play out. We're seeing what the rich have done to shore up their assets and make sure that they're taken care of and their families are taken care of while leaving the rest of us out to dry. And what a beautiful moment as they're going to try to push us back into the workforce preemptively and potentially kill 8 million people in this country alone. What a great moment to realize our power and have a general strike and say, we're throwing our bodies on the gears of fucking capitalism until that system changes and we stop raping this planet and exploiting each other and doing these different forms of slavery and putting different names on it. Like, this is a time to allow that to happen. And don't let this moment pass by. You know what we fucking did yesterday? And I don't even know if this is something you can get in trouble for, but we're trying to start, there's 36 units in our building. We put a fucking note on every single person's door saying, no one should be paying rent, no one should be evicted, and the building staff should be paid in full and not have to come in. We can take over those duties. We can figure this out between ourselves and start a network that has power when negotiating with our landlords and that can share resources and information and make sure we have each other's back if we're going to have to be in this building for months. And I don't know. We already have a coalition of 6 units out of the 36.
That's really cool.
Didn't take
and
long.
I think that's also, though, an example of you shaping your reality because
Yeah.
of something you believe in. And I think that, to me, is the most important aspect of all of this. Like like you said, it's really not a political thing. I don't
No.
even view it as a top-bottom thing. I just view it as people legitimately looking out into the world, looking inside of themselves and being like, what do I want to see? If this is a catalyst for people like you to completely rechange systems in your lives and then ripple it out,
Yeah.
you know me. You guys are very convincing people. When you start doing some shit, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm all right. I'm going to listen to you guys more than I'm going to listen to someone on TV. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
I just think that the main message with all this is we've had this massive pattern interruption. And as we have these patterns, whatever they were, even just the regular shit we did that wasn't even part of like society, right? Regular society. We have this wonderful opportunity right as spring is here to basically plant seeds, and we get to plant whatever the fuck we want to plant. And if that's a revolution, it's a revolution. If it's fucking, I will say this, my kind of vision with how this stuff gets recalibrated into a more equitable system so everyone can actually thrive or have the ability to thrive, right? Or the opportunity to thrive, is I think it's going to be a little more subversive than kind of a culture world clash. I think it's going to take people who are part of the elite or people who are benefiting from these systems heavily kind of waking up and being one of the people who recognizes, oh, let me redistribute this in an equitable way. But I also do think one of the things that happens as you kind of restructure whatever it is, just think of like a river flowing into a smaller kind of basin. It has to be done in a way that it's not rushing too quickly. You're going to have an imbalance on the other side and you're going to have a flood. So it does need to kind of be like, and this isn't trickle down, but this is kind of figuring out a way to like irrigate change.
Yeah.
And that to me is going to look like some synthesis of the current capitalist system and what you guys are talking about, which is kind of like this
Psychedelic socialism.
egalitarian psychedelic socialism. And I think what psychedelic socialism actually has to offer is like that you dose up capitalism, and then capitalism thinks that the best thing it needs to do, like this is the whole idea of changing the systems, the motivations. Like I don't fundamentally believe that the systems and corporations that have been created are fundamentally evil, nor do I think the people who actually benefit them are fundamentally evil. I think these systems have just had the wrong priorities and they got out of hand. So if you can change the motivation of what the systems are to make the planet healthier, to make people healthier, all of these things, it's actually not, it's like a judo flip rather than like a big fat fucking match between sumo wrestlers. Like it's a quick little flip type thing.
Well, it's power corrupts. So we just need to like flip the power or like decentralize the power. You know what I mean? Like I don't blame people for wanting to make money for themselves and for their family at the expense of other people. You know, that's kind of the nature of this, what we're doing. So I'm hopeful. Though,
I don't
like
think
what
it's
you're saying.
our nature, though. I think it is the nature of what we're doing, but it's not our nature.
Agreed.
I think really for the most part, like people, like, God damn, how long ago, 200, 300 years ago, people wouldn't have left a fucking 10-mile radius of where they were fucking born. They'd probably see 100, 200 people in their whole life. Like, things were drastically different, and that's what we're more evolved for. It's really this hyper-capitalism, and that's created, like, the cities and all this craziness that, like, has completely changed that. And power got centralized during all of that. And now I think what we're seeing is a beautiful moment to see, like, oh, the federal government is something we all put faith in for a long time. It's failing us right now. They haven't even, I mean, we are a failed state. We are a failed and failing empire. And the federal government hasn't even taken the steps to accurately assess what this problem is. So I think when we're beholden to a line on the Dow Jones going up and down, and we're willing to make human sacrifice to make that line go up, we've become beholden to the wrong systems, and the people need to revolt. And that's not as scary of a thing as you think. A revolution is our collective immune system reacting, and we have a fever, and the fever fucking breaks, and then we go ahead accordingly. And all of psychedelic socialism, like, if I had to sum it up, it'd be like, there's a line below which no one drops. We cannot stand for people being homeless, for people having
that I agree with.
Slave wages, for all of this stuff, for people not having health care, for people being left out to dry. Like, you can't play capitalist games until everyone's taken care of. So I think this is very revealing that the capitalist system is predicated on fucking death, on you fucking dying if you're not going to fucking produce in the way that it needs you to.
Well,
We
then
can't go ahead like that.
Then we have this very interesting question come up, though. This is a really interesting one. Is death a bad thing?
No, bodily death, not of your choosing because the state chose to ignore you and not have your needs met. Like, that is not something any of us should stand for and stand for even bearing witness to. I think a lot of the religious texts really point to that we have to be there for each other. You know, that was the good news that Jesus was spreading, and this is why they had to kill him. The good news was that poor people, he was going around to poor people and saying, it is not God's will that you are in this situation.
Yes.
And you should fight back.
Who's God?
Well, Well, I know, but like, here's what I'm saying. God is you. But that you can resist, that you can fight back, and it's not God's will. Despite what the state is telling you, you are not destined to be in poverty. And there's ways to go about resisting. And Jesus was revolutionary in that sense, and that's why they had to fucking kill him.
I couldn't agree more. Though you know my thoughts on Jesus Christ, I'll acknowledge that I probably believe he was also a prophet and a man, but as a symbol of the resurrection of who we actually are, that's the function. When I hear God, and God doesn't want people to be poor, I hear I am. And that is incumbent that what we refer to as God is this collective I am, and that each of us are one of these people with roles to play. This is a belief of mine, doesn't have to be a belief of everyone. I believe every single soul, every single being that incarnates here chooses the exact moment of its death before incarnation. What that means to me is that if I decided I'm going to go on coronavirus, it has nothing to do with the federal government. It has nothing to do with the state government. It has nothing to do with kids going to beaches. It means that this was my appointed role to die there. That's a terrifying thought for people who view death as a finality, as an end, as something that is going to mean the end of, or they've been plucked away from us. But to me, that's more of a sign of people not investigating the question of death or not confronting their fears of mortality. And I'm not saying here that like I'm done in that way at all, but I do know the kind of ego and psychic, I don't like the word ego there, but these psychic deaths that I've put myself through on psychedelics, off of psychedelics, really helped me have a better approach to when I see someone die. And I've been around death in my life. I've had very close friends and family members die, and I've witnessed, deathbeds. What I felt since those people's deaths really does remind me that the finality that we view here, stuck in time and space, is kind of a misperception and a misapprehension of what's actually going on. This doesn't mean that we should be reckless and hedonistic and just buy into a death cult all the time. However, I think this is waking a lot of people up. I really do. I think it is serving a function that may not be comfortable or pleasant and may have more suffering than people want, but it's certainly serving a function, without a doubt.
It definitely feels like something Sean and I have been practicing for years. Between practicing dying with psychedelics and letting go of who we thought we are and what we do and what our job is and what our identity is, and it kind of feels like, and we've been staying home a lot and staying in and trying to get more
building our tribe,
and all this stuff happens, and now everyone's like kind of in our position where they're home and not knowing when they're going to get their next paycheck, if a next paycheck is ever going to come. And it's like kind of a way we've consciously decided to try to live our lives, with like a free fall trust into the universe. So it's like kind of recalibrating in a way, which I agree with what you're saying is like coming in to trust and alignment and acceptance of the things the way they are. That said, I do believe personally that we dance with our reality, and every moment, every choice, every thought creates a new reality, and it jumps us to a new place in the multiverse. So maybe in that last multiverse, you chose that you were going to die in coronavirus, but this multiverse, when you decided to, be more active or vote with your best interest in mind, that you're getting into a multiverse where you're not going to die of coronavirus. And that's where I'm like at this place where I think, we saved lives when we regulated that people have to wear seatbelts.
Totally.
We save lives when we take drugs off the market that aren't. We kill people when we say that they should, like Trump is saying, that you should do certain drugs to treat yourself with coronavirus, and people are self-treating themselves with coronavirus and dying. Do I think he has those deaths on his hands? I do think he does.
We save lives when we end wars and make peace, because all that is a virus. It's just fought in a different way. And
well, it's like the Bhagavad Gita, though, right? If you look at the Bhagavad Gita and you draw the conclusion that war is bad, you fundamentally miss the point. And this isn't condoning war as a thing we should do. You know me as probably one of the most peaceful, non-violent people you'll meet. I just don't. I mean, I have it in me, but I don't really express it that often. But the Bhagavad Gita is really good at showing Arjuna, right? All of these are God, all of these characters are you, that this battle between him and his family, this like blood feud, is the catalyst that gets him to realize the true nature of reality. And he transcends that. And Krishna is constantly telling him, you gotta kill these people. You have to fight them. You can't run away. You can't stop in the middle of the battlefield and not do this. This is the nature of duality. This doesn't mean that we just allow our lower natures and just like to become shit people because it doesn't matter. But it does mean there is always going to need to be some relative aspect of darkness, of shit we don't, put in the light. But what I've noticed, and this is something I thought of, I was on a jog the other day and it clicked and I was like, oh my God, it makes a lot of sense. I think for those of us who carry the light, it's quite literally our function to seek out the dark. That's what you carry the light for. You're holding it in front of you and you're using it to go through the dark. So that means like we've incarnated here probably pretty specifically to really experience this and understand what the message is. What that message is totally up to us. For me, what I've kind of taken it as a reaffirmation of is that this is our world. We do jump timelines. We do jump dimensions every time we put our train of thought somewhere. And, as a former hypochondriac, to see my reaction to this, both not just in my words, but my actions and just like my vibe, again, one of the more transformative experiences of my life, because this shit would have cracked me, especially with children. You know what I mean? Like I got a baby and like, it's just like, there is a real power that can be revealed through these experiences. And I guess I take external reality more as kind of like an example of the places I can work on, right?
Yeah.
In myself, more than actually is anything that's real. I really feel like it's just a projection, and like Trump is a villain, and there's a lot of villains in our lives, right? The people who fucked us over, the people who are being dicks or difficult or whatever. But if we can see them as like characters, like rather than like locked in, fixed in people who exist, I don't know, it just gets a lot easier.
I think by saying they're a villain, I'm calling him a character, and he's a character that I'm going to dance with. And that's like, I mean, I think Sean and I are ready to fight. We are going to fight, and we are fighting. We're fighting with our words right now. We're fighting with our actions. We are in the fight, and we do realize that just because, I don't there are things about Trump lately that have brought up the feelings of hate, but I agree. I don't want to hate anyone. I accept people for the dance that they're doing. This
is the last time you want to root against our president. This is not the time for that. It's not the time for like, oh, look, I told you so. What they're doing, the bills that they're trying to pass to stimulate the economy are fucking bullshit. They're, stuff like that needs to just be brought out into the light. Cass and I are pretty good at that.
Yeah, and we know that people are disappointed that they're not getting a check, yesterday, and they think that...
Yeah.
And there's just bringing a more awareness to, it's a little that we need to see who's distributing this money and how they're doing it, and they're doing it with their own best interest at heart. And the people have power, and I think what we want to remind people is that we have power. We can be accepting everything as it is, but that doesn't mean you want to let go of your personal power to make change.
And this is where I think the root of kind of my belief system rears its head, whether ugly or otherwise, is I think if people sit down and imagine themselves in the summer with the perfect relationship to money, their government, their family, their health, the environment, you will naturally start running the script, and everyone will that needs to be done to get you to that point. That's where I think the real power is. It doesn't mean that all of those things that you mentioned don't happen. Psychedelic socialism, a more restructured egalitarian for the people stuff, that's all possible. But I think the way it really happens, and in my direct experiences, is you imagine those states and then just believe them, and then you naturally do that shit, and you see the world kind of conform to it. I mean, I was a Yang guy. Listen, Yang obviously isn't going to be president, but one of the things that is it's not cool. If people start getting $3,000 checks, that's 3 months worth of Yang time. So I don't know. So it's just like one of these things that you don't get too attached to the means and the specific outcome, but the feeling of knowing that this shit worked out and that your family is safe and healthy. I mean, this is a real tricky one to do, and you got to really believe it. But if you can imagine the end of your life, however you would like it to be, peacefully, everyone around you, or just going in your sleep at one night, and you really believe that, you don't have to worry about dying in coronavirus. Even if you get put on a fucking ventilator and get sent to a hospital, there will be a deep part of you that knows, like, that's not it. So you can tap into your death, like your future death. That's a real fucking mind blower for people, because it feels so wrong. It feels like this unknowable piece of information, but like, experiment with this stuff just to see what happens and how it changes your conception. And what I can promise you it doesn't do is remove the prospect of death from your mind. It doesn't just like push it away so you don't have to deal with it. It pushes you towards it and really starts kind of like helping you find intuitively what you want your relationship to it to be. But I mean, this is the seed planting time for me. It's spring. You guys are going to be up here in my new place, I know already how it looks. So like, that's why I also have this attitude, and it's not just based on idealism or wishful thinking.
And look, fucking all great seeds start in sequestration, and then they grow their networks, and then they grow above the ground, and they bear fruit, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a time definitely we can tap more into gratitude and those practices, and realizing you're living in perfection, and maybe this was the collective in-breath that society needed to realize some things. This is a good time to learn how to meditate. And I've been afraid of psychedelics a little bit, like almost like this is so psychedelic that, like, because Cass and I are normally like, fucking, we'll take a tab or two of acid any time, like, who cares, let's smoke some toad, let's smoke DMT, let's take the ayahuasca. But like, that seems a little besides the point now, because we're in the collective thing that we're normally tapping into through these chemical portals. We're in the societal version of that. And I mean, I feel like when we talk about death, I think of toad. I think of this toad medicine that basically kills you and kills every version of you that you could have known before or held on to, and you have this blank slate to start over. This is going to be society's version of that. And I think of ayahuasca, like when we're saying about war. That's what ayahuasca brings you into. It brings you into the shadow realm, that war right below the surface that's always being fought. And you can kind of learn to surf those seas a little bit. And that's like one of the huge gifts of, I think, being people that I think I consider us all carrying a light, is like being able to go and plunge yourself into the shadow realm, into those depths, learn how to surf down there, and then therefore be the kind of person that can hang during this kind of thing. Really be the church of chill, y'all. Fucking embrace it. Find that inner chill. Society is not training you to chill. It's training you to be productive and get mortgages and pay things off and keep this rat race scramble fucking hamster on a wheel mentality. And we're just talking about flattening all that out. And getting into and tapping into your inner chill, which is the way we all want to feel. And I think they leave us at home like this for too long. People are going to truly end up valuing that. And that's the most revolutionary thing you could do, is start valuing your time and stop with this neoliberal attitude of saying, no, my good time's going to come at the end of my life when I've saved for it, when I've paid off this, when I got the husband, when I got this. No, it's now. It's now. And if people start valuing that again, capitalism doesn't stand a chance. It's a fucking joke.
Here's what I think's happening. I think that's inevitable. I think it's happening right now. I do think there's validity to what you're saying in terms of some of the kind of different way of viewing society and the economy, that there is kind of this death now. Like, we don't want people to actually see that they don't really need this to work. But I don't know that that's something that we. I think everyone processes that individually in their own way. Collectively, it's happening. Like I think by 2024, what we know as like modern day society and culture, like we will be shocked that we ever did it that way. In the same way that like the internet, before the internet, it's like hard to kind of like people who haven't been around that, right, didn't grow up with that, like they don't know. This is an inevitability. I think the best thing we can do is find the places that we feel are dissonant, right? These points of view or these perspectives or these energies, and figure out how to harmonize with them temporarily, right? Play a chord that matches them, and then you can transition to another chord from that chord. That's kind of what it feels like right now for some of us. Some people are just riding this wave. I mean, there are people who have no experience with psychedelics or this state of consciousness that's just kind of naturally happening for people. It's
impermanence and uncertainty. Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be a nightmare right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a premonitions in like 2000, 2003 of like things like this happening. It was
10
just the
for 2000, 2003?
No, like for in the future. It felt
Okay.
like, somewhere around this time that there were going to be a lot of people who hadn't kind of experienced the things I was going through on psychedelics at the time, that they were kind of going to be forced to do that and just base level reality. And if we look at the past 2 years, year and a half, people are being forced to deal with this shit regardless of whether they're taking drugs or not.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have, so they have the experience. But
yeah.
I mean,
2020 is drugs. You
2020
you
is
don't
drugs.
need them. You can use them to enhance if you know how to use them. But like,
yes.
This would not be a time I would want to be discovering acid. I'm glad we did our work with that. And it's like too apparent, because we really do go through life with the belief like that, like everything's happening for us and we're in perfection. We're in these beautiful temples. We just have to maintain them, and we get to experience this beautiful perfection.
Facts.
That like I really do believe that. But the eeriness in which this all came to a head, like we all went and had the most blowout when we saw Ween.
I know, I was saying that.
And we all took Molly, and there was 10 of us, and it was like just like the homies, and everyone was at like our favorite fucking band, like that we got this like orgasmic explosion before the world shut in on us. And then like Cass and I like totally were like having this like natural like bodily retreat type of moment right before this, not even knowing about coronavirus. And then we met Carrie, who like joined up in this thing, and we've been quarantined together and having a beautiful relationship. And like, just like, it's what we needed to get through this. Like we might have been losing our damn minds. And if we were losing our minds, we'd probably think that was the gift too. But like, I don't know. I feel like it's the universe like rewarding us a little bit for having held space like this for so long already.
And you know what I believe is you are the universe, quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
I think lovers found each other at this time to get through this and not only ride it out like in a not freaked out way, but in like a very amazing, like this is the best time of my life, just to be clear. And like that's not.
Yeah, me too.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it to its full extent. And still, that's why I've been watching the news. I don't want to stay detached from this stuff. I want to fucking be able to watch this stuff and carry that vibe. Like, I also think the healthiest thing people can do outside of any drugs or even social distancing is like when you share this love with people in physical proximity, who doesn't have the virus or whatever, you're making yourself immune. It is really difficult to get sick when you're feeling the amount of love that you guys are feeling, that I know that I'm feeling. Like you may get a little ping of it, but the antibodies, whatever we refer to as antibodies, those are fucking jacked up like a fucking, like they're just killing shit in the best possible way. Glowing, right? How much have you guys been glowing? I see it now. It's insane.
Dude, we're having the best fucking time over here. It would be inappropriate to fucking even get into it, but
it's so good that the balance of coronavirus seems like, oh yeah, duh,
like,
of course, everything's
like,
this perfect.
Like,
of
did
course.
we do this?
Yeah.
Did we?
We're on the same
this?
page. Yeah. This is how I feel too. I was like, are we actually doing this? Are we, because we feel so good, making people die? On fucking ventilators?
Oh
I get it.
Oh my god, dude!
But
the funny thing is, like when you say you're watching Fox News, like. To me, I'm like, oh, Noah's doing good. That's probably the most grounded thing I've heard of him doing in a long motherfucking time. But if you heard about us watching Fox News, it'd be like, what's up with those guys?
There's some horrible problems.
It's funny. Yeah.
I wouldn't care if you were watching Fox or MSNBC. I'd be like, it's all the same.
Oh yeah,
shit.
it's all the same.
I watch them all. Oh
yeah.
I flipped through them all. I just have naturally found my home at Fox News. Of course. I literally.
Dude, you're the best. I love it, man.
Oh, hey guys, I'm glad to hear you guys are also in this love vortex. I had a lot of people emailing me and sending me messages like, am I allowed to feel this good during a pandemic? I'm like, absolutely. That's your job.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite literally your job. Like, the last thing you want to do is doubt these intense waves of positive feelings because, like, you're holding that shit down probably for like a mile radius at least around you. Like, and that's what I really like. People, whether you're listening to music or watching comedy or just hanging out, just like whatever it is, if you can spin that out consciously with like also kind of protecting your vibe, that's the best thing anyone can do right now.
Plus, this might be the end of our days. Enjoy yourself,
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's why I got that tank refilled, man. We made it a week into this quarantine before I was like, I wonder if
What's
they're
the
doing
deal?
nitrous
I mean, like,
deliveries.
do they do upstate? This is what I need, like, in my life.
No,
See,
but I probably could acquire a tank that I could slip in your trunk very in a sterile way,
I would do it, man. You know me. I came in, a week ago? You
Yeah.
don't even know.
You had the right idea. You definitely had the right idea. But
I knew it. I
know.
had to get in and out.
Yeah. What about weed? Have you been smoking weed?
I've been going to the dispensary in Massachusetts. They have the tape all set up. It's the most efficient this place has ever been. It's pretty good. I yelled at my listeners to send me weed. And so like several people have reached out, but I'm waiting for those packages.
Nice.
But yeah, no, of course I'm smoking weed.
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
like, Jesus. Yeah.
I smoke a little less because I say I got to protect my lungs.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Cass. God bless you.
Cass,
you think you need to protect your lungs.
I know. It's really cute, but she definitely holds space in being like very healthy. Like she doesn't fucking need the joint. Like she doesn't grab for it the way I do. She doesn't think about it.
Well,
like
and
that.
when I do smoke, I get so high.
Yeah.
And
it's very funny.
Yeah, I love weed. It's really great.
Dude, we just got probably the strongest weed ever from you know who, and
really,
like I haven't had weed make me hungry in
He's
years. I'm eating all
our
of
food.
everything.
No, let me tell you something. Okay, I think this is part of like our energetic function is to like eat a lot of food. I've been noticing these waves. It has nothing to do with like my physical appearance or weight or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just like sometimes I will inhale food for days at a time. I just think it's like this balancing. It's all energy.
You might be eating for other people
Are
now.
you eating a lot right now?
Yeah, a fair amount. I mean, not like I mean, I used to overeat, so
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I'm eating, man. There's no holding back. That's for sure.
There's no holding back. Oh, dude, I'm not holding back at all. Especially because we have another little stoner gamer goddess over here. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make waffles.
And I also know they're not going to be
Fuck
feeding us good vegan food in the hospital, so.
No, we got to get it in.
The hospitals. Oh my God, I love it.
We're not gonna end up there.
0% chance. Just so
I
you
like
guys
to
know.
live my life where like I am grounded in that reality, so I can really fully like it's my own dance. I have my own dance that I do.
love it.
You know what I mean? It's one of the path of least resistance, and I might have a little more anxiety flare up than Sean does because he doesn't pay attention at all. But
I'm distracted.
I pay acute attention, and I'm still somehow blissfully not anxious about this shit. But I think it's important that like when you feel feelings like anxiousness, depression, sadness, like definitely don't ever push them away. That you're meant to experience them. Take them for what they're worth. If they start to hold you and kind of consume you, then it's time to reevaluate. But I mean, there's no shame in feeling anxiousness at all.
No.
Definitely.
Yeah.
it happens when it happens. It happens like a wave, and you just let it like crash through you. But
You've seen it. You've seen me go through them.
yeah.
You've watched the spaz.
No one's
dance
immune.
I think we've all seen each other go through. We've known each other long enough now and been real enough with each other that we've all surfed them together, And I think that surfing them together rather than tamping them down, because tamping them down, it's just the threads that bundle up that make depression and anxiety and like. So when those fears are coming up, it's like it's a good thing. Just like fucking get them out, whatever.
That's
Scream
what I
into
mean.
a pillow, do whatever the fuck you got to do. Tell a friend, write something, go on a podcast, do whatever you have to do to like just hear how ridiculous it is instead of tamping it down because it's too scary to feel right now. You're definitely setting yourself up for a mental breakdown of some sort or depression or anxiety
100%.
getting the best of you.
I think also like we're a little bit in a rude awakening. Like I think we're able to. I like want to talk softly because I don't want to like make this a big thing. I know we're doing this on a podcast.
Carrie.
No, but even anyone listening to it, I'm like, maybe people tune out at this frequency, but like we're looking at this for. This isn't gonna be like. I don't know. Never mind. I'm gonna focus on.
No, say it. Say
No,
it.
fuck
say
it. Fuck it. No, I'm gonna envision myself in the summer with all my friends. I'm not gonna talk about this shit.
I'll tell you what I actually think is going to happen. I think the summer is pretty realistic in terms of people. Again, remember, at least just from the epidemiological, easy for me to say, sense, the thing here isn't that this is the deadliest killer and it's going to fuck you up like it's the plague. We know that it's not. The thing is that we don't want an already shitty healthcare system to be overwhelmed by everyone getting sick at once and there not being enough resources to deal with it. So as long as that legitimately... They call it flattening the curve. But really, as long as the cases don't exponentially continue to go up, which they won't, because nothing does forever, maybe over time, but not like in a parabolic sense, then this does become kind of more like a flu-like thing. And then the system can actually accommodate people who are really showing symptoms.
Do you think they'll say like, hey, if your birthday is between this day and this day, you're allowed to be outside the month of June? or on Saturdays or something.
This is what they did this in Turkey. They told people that who are over the age of 65, I think they have to stay inside. It's actually like a rule and they're enforcing it. So I mean, this is like, and in China, with China, here's the weird fucking juxtaposition. This is where it was kind of an entryway for me for kind of the right wing, if you want to call it, or Trump agenda type stuff is China, who flattened their curve, who really have now reported less and less case every day, the way they did it by being the most police state ever. They fucking literally like trapped people indoors. Like they literally like the face
boarded
technology.
People in.
Yeah. So like there's this weird dichotomy between these authoritarian, restrictive, anti-freedom, quote unquote, measures that were very effective at making this not a pandemic. Whereas in the United States, where we value the ability to do whatever we want, we see that kind of showing up as like young.
I don't know. To me, this is like the Fox News view of
but
it.
It's
because
not.
Like my view of it is that the way that they've structured their society, they are light years ahead of us in terms of technology, spreading of truthful information, and people
who is
respect
China?
China, yeah. They're light years ahead of us, and they use that technology to spread the information, get people on board. And their government was on board with this, not trying to hide behind it because they're not trying to inflate some fake economy. They have a planned economy. So they were able to enforce these measures pretty quickly, but it was really more self-enforced. When Fox News is going to report this, they're going to say, hey, look, I know we hate China, but we do love a police state and fascism. So that's the thing that stopped the pandemic. It couldn't be all the other fucking things.
That's not where I got that information, though. I got all that stuff before I was watching Fox News from like CNN and like all these kind of, listen, it's not that much better. They are. But what I'm saying is like the narratives, like it's verifiable. Also just like Twitter people who live there, they're like legitimately like, yeah, they locked these people down.
Oh, yeah, they locked down cities.
My mom literally called me today saying like, Cass, I'm freaking out. Like it's basically elder side. They're willing to let old people die. And there's even people talking about rounding elders up and putting them in like military camps, guarded military camps, So it's obviously I thought that was a little dramatic, but we are seeming to be in a place where we're devaluing the lives of our parents and our grandparents and even ourselves, because I don't think any of us are safe.
I think that won't last long. I think that's why we're still hanging on to the last little death rattle of the systems that were. And, it's hard for people because they feel like they're shedding their identity. When you're saying the idea of work as we knew it is over, the idea of rent and mortgages and borrowing and capitalism and the way we knew it is over, that feels like you're stripping them of their identity.
That's true.
And they have a really hard time being creative and thinking outside of that whole paradigm. So that's where a lot of fears are going to come up, and those are the fears that I think most people are going to be dealing with in the next month or so.
I couldn't agree more.
On the other end of that, don't you think it's a beautiful thing to be like, oh, I've shed that identity. Now I can create a life that works more in alignment for me, and maybe as a country we'll see less addiction, less despair deaths, less murder, less crime.
Think of it too, like when you said shed your identity. If you think of like a skin or like a lizard when they molt and shed that outer layer, it's like a raw exposed skin that's underneath, and that might not be the most comfortable state to be in. And I think a lot of us who are going through this kind of shedding of identity, and you guys saw me do this about as much as anyone over the past year. It is kind of it's an invitation to get comfortable with that rawness, because it does harden up and it does start to feel comfortable, and then you shed that one. You just do it naturally. But this is a process that I think collectively we're going through and individually. And it's just like, if you can ride these waves and actually feel good and actually know that the chances are, if you're listening to this or if you're one of us, chances are you've set up a pretty fucking amazing path for yourself in this lifetime, in this timeline, in this dimension. And to just embrace that and know it, it just frees up all of that creative energy. It frees up all of the things that you have inside of you to actually be expressed and come out, which is really what everyone wants. And that looks different for everyone, but you don't even have the opportunity. And one thing I will definitely agree about, and I've experienced this directly, is one of the fundamental flaws that I saw with the system that was created is the amount of pressure that's put on people from a financial system, from an educational system, from a healthy. It doesn't even let people get to a. You know how I like legitimately had to like pull myself out of that. I mean, it was a conscious decision, but the things that I had to do just financially to make those decisions, like I had to take out loans. Like I had to be like, okay, I know what I'm doing now, and that was such a fucking mental uphill climb that I don't think most people are prepared to do.
But they have to. Then they have to do it,
right? And that's the thing. Like, when you get that kind of, and people are in this right now, they're not going to jobs. A lot of people, they're going to start getting checks from the government. They're going to have a month at least to kind of chill out. Use that as an opportunity to home in on what you actually want to be doing in this world, because you're getting this like beautiful weirdo break that is probably unlikely to be. Not many people have ever experienced this in their lives, if ever.
Yeah, wow, this is insane.
Or our parents' life. There's never been like something like this in 2 generations that we know of. You know?
Yeah. So I just, again, it's an opportunity. I just think like of the most beautiful caliber, and you have to also acknowledge the beautiful horror of death too. Like, you know what I mean? That's the trick here. And if you can hold both of those like two sides of a coin, like you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, the thing that's different about this one, like as opposed to like even some of the stuff you were saying before, all the people that die, you know, even like 82,000 people died of heroin last year in this country.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't think about that because we think it's their fault. Now there's something where it's like, how can we blame and who can we blame? And it's a tough one because it's not discriminating.
It's not.
So to me, I hope a moment like this wakes us up to all those other people. Every day I wake up thinking about the people in prison right now and how silly it is that anyone.
They're starting to let them out.
With.
You saw that, right? Yes, dude. I'm watching on the news. They're letting out in like Pennsylvania 1,000+ people today, all over the country.
Fantastic.
They're just letting people out. They're not doing any low-level offenses. They're not bringing them to jail. Like all non-violent things aren't being prosecuted and brought in.
Wow.
Dude, you know, like the shit that you actually like have been imagining is literally, it's the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Well, if there's one thing we imagine a lot and try to pull people with us, because it's such a hard thing for most people to imagine, it's prison abolition. It's the end of slavery as we know it.
It's happening.
And like these kind of calamities will force our hand on those things. Or we can use it as an excuse to go further back to sleep. Further into oppression. Unlikely.
I don't think that's even really what I would describe this as I got this from Jessa, who you guys got to connect with maybe during the pandemic. Is she described it as like a washing machine, and she describes it as like 3D to 5D. 5D is this realm of unconditional love and interconnection that most people are not comfortable or familiar with. You guys are. For a lot of people, they're getting thrown in this washing machine from 3D, which is kind of base level. This works A to B, logic, everything. Thrown into this washing machine, spun around, and people are getting spun around real hard. And then for people who want to like kind of coast through it, they can get out. But for the people who want to ride this motherfucker out to the end, they're going to get slammed down into this reality where we've been existing for a fair amount of time, and it's not going to be bad for them. It's not going to be some hellscape where everyone's back asleep again, because it's going to be so ridiculously difficult to run these patterns when people realize that they're not needed and how uncomfortable they are. That's the whole thing. It's not even going to be like a amazingly brave choice for a lot of people. It's just going to be like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. It's that simple. I very much believe, like I was telling Cass when you were in the bathroom, like 2024.
I was just about to say 2024. Remember that card we pulled of the moon when we were talking about the lunar eclipse or solar eclipse or whatever of 2024, and how we're all going to live on this commune of state together.
Oh my God.
And we're going to have this beautiful world. I don't know if that's what you were going to say, but it's just been going through my mind a lot.
Hey, I mean, I see it firsthand every day up here too. Like, I mean, one of the coolest things that you guys didn't get a chance to experience is 2 days ago, after everything had been shut down for about a week, the birds started coming back. I have never in my life seen this many types of birds, this loud of birds. We're just walking through. It's the most crazy thing. And we realized ducks, fucking crows, robins, woodpeckers, the crazy shit. We're like, oh my God, it's kind of like what's happening in Italy. Like shit is being shut down so much. The animals are starting to take back over. It's like the beginning of 12 Monkeys minus all the 5 billion people dying. Like it's absolutely incredible. And I think if people shift in and see that this is so much better, like so much better, that way of life, like people will naturally gravitate towards those things rather than it having to be some cataclysm. This is about as cataclysmic as it gets. And while it feels very apocalyptic right now, I guarantee sooner than people realize, we will look back on this and be like, wow, you know what? Could have been a lot worse. And we actually handled it pretty fucking well, considering how bad things could have been and how good we feel now.
And that
I know that
we needed it. That this happened because we needed it. Because this happened because of our encroachment on natural habitats. That's where these viruses come from. And that's why these things happen. And they're going to continue to happen as we encroach on environments of natural habitats. And this is a beautiful thing that makes me so optimistic.
Yes, think of viruses, like everything inside of Earth. Think of Earth as one giant being. Everything inside of Earth is organic and natural for Earth. Even the stuff we would probably call artificial, things we've created like plastic, it's still a part of this living ecosystem. LSD. Right? Mm-hmm. So LSD would certainly be one of them. And LSD, very important to point out, its root is decay. It's from the mold of the ergot plant. So we have this beautiful synthesis of wheat, this life-giving Dionysian kind of archetypal energy, and then the death that comes from it, which is the mold. That's why LSD is so great. But anyway, the point is that we're recalibrating the planet in a pretty powerful way. It's up to us to kind of latch on to the frequency where we allow it to happen rather than fighting it. But again, the Earth, the virus, it's the Earth. It's literally, to me, what it feels like is Mother Earth, Father Time, whatever you want to call it, being like, chill the fuck out. And for people who still don't want to chill out, they will continue to be knocked back on their asses until they chill out. And it's fine. It's not like a mean thing. It's kind of like a parent telling their kid to stop having a temper tantrum. That's what it feels like the Earth is doing to humanity. And I'm like, I'm cool with it. Like, I didn't think it was going so great. So
I mean, I'm cool with dying. If I have to die so the little birdies can come out, like, I'm like, that's why I'm going through these processes of experiencing like a bad death. You know, I'm allowing things to happen because I do want to trust in the beauty of this world, and I do want this Earth to be a beautiful place for the animals and the people that inhabit it. You know,
and like to me, it's such a beautiful message of cosmic love from Gaia to us specifically, the humans specifically. And how often does Gaia send a humans only specific message to get our shit in order that transcends oceans and transcends nations and laws and all the ways? Like, how often is Gaia like, oh, here's one for you? You know, even the messages that Gaia sends us in terms of witnessing climate change, that's for everything. You know, like that's not specifically for humans, and we've also learned to ignore it. And now she hits us with something like, how can you ignore this? And cosmic love, that dose of cosmic love, isn't mushy, cuddly, romantic love the way we think of it. It's highly indifferent to our feelings.
Absolutely.
And here we are. So, you know, just the ultimate fucking wake-up call to stop fucking raping the planet, stop exploiting each other, please.
And what's cool to me is that even for people who don't think about that or even recoil when they hear that. Like I heard Trump saying today, and it's something I didn't agree with. I was just laughing at it. That he's like, they want us to shut down oil. Like, no, it was basically no fucking way.
Yeah. You see who has his ear.
But what will happen is systems, I'm telling you, it really is going to happen like this. Systems will emerge that it's more efficient and you make more money from stopping doing that and doing something else. That's naturally what will happen unless this thing all blows up. And every vision I've ever seen does not end up with destruction in this immediate future, right? I think this is just a game that we're playing up. And yeah, there are versions of us that maybe choose to incarnate right towards the end before the planet blows up, but we're not there. We're not even close to there. We're actually in an age like, I know a lot of people think of these yugas, right? These Indian Vedic cycles. And a lot of people think we're in the Kali Yuga, which is this age of where everything's getting darker and darker and worse and worse and more fucked up. And we're not. We're in the Dwapara Yuga, which is actually the reemergence of the light, but it's really slow and it's really gradual. And we're in kind of like the early middle-ish phases of that. So for people who kind of catch that and recognize that, you see all of the examples you would need to see that that's what we're in the age where that exists. But what we are experiencing is clearly the death of an age that was kind of an unconscious masculine age where aggression, domination, insecurity, all of these, and listen, if it was an unconscious feminine age, all of those things would have been expressed in that way. It just happens to be masculine. This is not saying the feminine is better. It's not that. It's just a rebalancing. And one of the best parts of the feminine energy that is kind of coming back in is this destructive Kali-like energy. It doesn't mean we're in the Kali Yuga. It just means that energy exists as a positive influence on the planet. And if that means, I don't want to make this sound cavalier or nonchalant, but thousands and tens of thousands of people die as a wake-up call, as a
yourself included,
call,
myself included,
right? Could be, although it's not going to be for us. Just that bubble. That's what it needed to take. I mean, really being able to maintain the mentality that everything is perfect, especially when it doesn't seem perfect, that's a superpower, man. That's the whole fucking game. Like it's not easy, but it can be easy, but it's typically not the easiest thing at first. But man, it's the best.
You gotta, this is all of our cross to bear, and it's time to die to who you thought you were.
Yeah, I'm with it. Guys.
Yeah, this was fun.
This is very fun. Very, very fun.
We'll
Always
do this
a pleasure.
whenever.
Yeah, you guys are the best. We'll connect soon, too.
Cool, man. Yeah, let's talk. We'll catch up.
All right.
Love you,
I have
Noah.
a recording.
Stay
Love
safe.
you.
Yeah,
Love
we'll
you
send
too.
it your way. Bye.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to that episode. Go check out Sean and Cass on their podcast, veryapepodcast.com. Very Ape Podcast, veryape.tv. They have documentaries. I didn't mention that in the intro because I'm a dingus, but they have the best documentaries I've ever seen. Go check those out at veryape.tv. I think they're all on YouTube. I mean they are. Some of the most talented, coolest, best psychonauts, psychedelic, cool ass motherfucking people you'll ever meet. Go check it out. I saved this shit for the outro for the real OGs who know. You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying? All right, that's it. Next week, coming up soon, going to be a really amazing episode. Stay tuned for that. I never hype up my shit in advance, but I am this one. Okay, lots of love. You're good. Bye-bye.